The Broncos, they went through what it was like after Peyton Manning retired, but now the Saints, they enter this upcoming season post Drew Brees.
Hmm.
Brees obviously getting into the broadcasting game, which I think he'll do phenomenal at,
Oh
but
yeah.
a lot of questions. We talked about the cap space that the Saints are dealing with entering the offseason, but they're ironing things out there. They've added some defensive beef, some really good players there. Obviously, Alvin Kamara. I don't know if you saw my comment on your Locked On
Yes.
Saints YouTube channel, but
I loved it.
Kamara, who's the quarterback? He's going to eat. So I think he's going to have a big season. Michael Thomas, can he stay healthy? Can he
Hmm.
stay kind of consistent without getting outside of his head a little bit, right?
Yeah.
If Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's getting in your head at practice, teams are going to take that and they're going to use it against you. So
Right.
we'll see. But, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Jameis Winston? Is it going to be Taysom Hill? Is it going to be, one of these other quarterbacks they picked up in the NFL draft? I mean, what is the state of the Saints at quarterback right now, and how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's really interesting to watch for right now, but I can tell you this, both Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill have really leaned into this competition, and this competition has begun well before training camp. I was talking to Luke Johnson, who writes for the New Orleans Advocate, Times-Picayune down there, and we both agreed that this competition obviously started last year, right, when they were both in the facility, but as you watch them away from the field, what are they doing? What are they saying? How are they portraying themselves? How are they talking about one another? They both are showing the utmost respect for one another in the midst of this competition. One of them, though, taking a different approach than the other. I mean, you look at Jameis Winston's Instagram, he's constantly posting his training. He's working out with Jay Glazer. He's out there. He's working with Adam Troutman, tight end for the New Orleans Saints, a few wide receivers, Ty Montgomery, their wide receiver slash running back hybrid. I mean, he's out in California putting in work, and you can see all of it. Meanwhile, Taysom Hill is in Idaho training right now on his, well, let's say on his own as far as we know, but we don't know that for sure, right? He could have just as many Saints receivers that are along with him. We just don't know because he's not being as open with his training as what you're seeing from Jameis Winston.
Yeah. No,
So,
that's a good thing too.
right. And I don't think either one approach is better than the other or worse than the other. I think that they're both just different approaches and they're both putting in a ton of work, and it's been a lot of it. It's been very interesting to watch. I don't expect that we're going to know who the starting quarterback is for the New Orleans Saints until we're about halfway through the practice week in week one. And that's not because the decision might not be obvious. We get 3 preseason games this year. You're going to get a good look at these quarterbacks before the season begins. But Sean Payton notoriously mum each time that there has been any question about who the next quarterback is going to be. Even in the 2 years now when the Saints lost Drew Brees to a UCL injury in 2019, Sean Payton teased a 2 quarterback system before he was even willing to say Teddy Bridgewater is the starter for New Orleans. And even though they had a pre-contract agreement, like before Taysom Hill's contract was even signed, there was an agreement that if Drew Brees missed time during the regular season, that Taysom Hill would be the starting quarterback. Again, they still waited until the last moment that they needed to in order to announce who that quarterback was going to be going into that Atlanta Falcons game in 2020. So while the decision may be made, and while the decision may be made during the preseason, I don't think we're going to hear about it yet until the beginning of the 2021 regular season.
Well, my question is are we going to see where, let's say Jameis Winston's leading a drive and he leads it past the 50-yard line, we're going to see Taysom Hill being put in at that point. I mean, that's the thing, because that was an often criticism last year from New Orleans Saints fans. And I even think media members that sometimes when Drew Brees was leading a drive, they'd put Taysom in and it would kill the momentum because of, plays going backwards and teams maybe diagnosing what they were going to do. Do you feel like that's still going to be an angle this upcoming season, regardless if Taysom
Yeah.
starts or Jameis?
Yeah, I very much believe that if Jameis Winston wins the starting position, that you'll still see Taysom Hill take snaps under center or from the shotgun in the red zone. He's such a valuable red zone option, both as a receiver, a runner, and even now as a potential passer, which I think actually works in Sean Payton's favor. That I still think that in the red zone, you're going to see Taysom Hill get snaps, even if Jameis Winston wins that. And I think you'll see less criticism because the criticism before was why take a Hall of Famer off of the field. Now it's going to be why take Jameis Winston off the field. I have a feeling fewer people are going to be asking that question at that time, especially understanding Taysom Hill's viability in the red zone. I would not be surprised to see that at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's a difference when you're Drew Brees versus Jameis Winston,
For
right?
sure, for
We'll see,
sure.
we'll see if post LASIK Jameis Winston will be the guy for this organization. But yeah, obviously a lot of questions too. But let's talk about the supporting cast around whoever may be the quarterback, right? There's Jameis
Yeah.
Winston, there's Taysom Hill, but what about wide receivers? We know Michael Thomas is there. Who can the next quarterback of the team rely on outside of Michael Thomas?
Well, you'll have Michael Thomas and you have Alvin Kamara, right? Because Kamara will continue to be a part of the passing game as well as a part of the running game, and he'll swap and spend time with Latavius Murray, who actually saw 42 targets last year in 2020. So he's shown that he can be a viable option out of the backfield as well, and he's a fantastic pass protector. So you can look at both of those being pluses for whomever that quarterback ends up being. But at the wide receiver position, specifically outside of Michael Thomas, there's a big question mark about who wide receiver 2 is going to be. Traquan Smith, who was drafted out of UCF in 2018, he was somebody that was coming in as averaging 19.8 yards per catch upon graduating. But he ended up moving to the slot because they had Ted Ginn Jr. playing the Z flanker receiver role. Then the following season, when they finally moved on from Ted Ginn Jr., they brought in Emmanuel Sanders, who ended up playing that role in 2020. So now does Traquan Smith finally get the opportunity to go out there and play the position he was drafted to play, as opposed to where he was moved in the slot, and allow him to compete at that Z flanker role? I give him the leg up right now at that position, but keep an eye on undrafted free agent second year guy now out of Tennessee, Marquez Callaway, who has shown a real viability at the wide receiver position, although he could be effective in the slot as well.
There's going to be some intriguing options because I was wondering about the Emmanuel Sanders departure. I feel like that was going to be big because we saw him make some big plays last year in
Absolutely.
moments where they absolutely needed it. So I think it gives, an opportunity for Smith to maybe step up into that role. So I like it, Ross. The Saints are a team that's going to intrigue me. I'm going to be watching them closely this season because I do want to see how they execute things, especially after the post-Drew Brees era. I still think defensively they have a very strong team, which could help take a little bit of pressure off whoever's the quarterback, because you still have Kamara, as you mentioned, Latavius Murray, who last year in action, he stepped up in a big way. He hurt the Broncos in that game against the Broncos defense. He had some big runs. So they have a nice, reliable 1-2 punch, I think, in New Orleans, a strong defense. That will definitely help take the pressure off of them.